Everyone, my name is Dimitri Tito, and I'm the chairperson of the AOGME Residents and Fellows Council. Welcome to our webinar on residency match preparation. So thank you for your time, each of you applicants present on this call. We also thank the resident physicians and the residency advisors that are here with us today. Just a couple of things about RFC and what we do. So the Residents and Fellows Council is a group within the AACOM's Assembly of Osteopathic Graduate Medical Educators. It was established back in 2018 with the goal to develop future leaders of the osteopathic profession. So we create a leadership track for residents and fellows, as well as educational activities for our members. We also provide support and resources on critical issues in the osteopathic profession. We provide mentorship to you, student leaders, networking opportunities for the RFC members in general. So if you're a fourth-year medical student, consider joining our email list to learn more about the events and different programs that we do. And I'll have Alenta drop the email address and the website. So visit us and come and learn more about the webinars and the membership meetings and events that we have. So this is very informal. It's a dinner night. Warm up your meal, sit back and relax and enjoy the webinar. So now I would like to invite our resident speakers and residency advisors to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Linda. Dr. Logan.
Hello, I'm Linda Logan. I'm the vice chair of the RFC, and I guess I'll just say a little bit about me. I'm a second-year pathology resident in Vermont at University of Vermont Medical Center. And I joined RFC because I think it's really important for residents to have their voices heard, and it's nice to be able to bring opinions and feelings back to a committee that can maybe help make a difference and make your residency better in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Dr. Logan and I actually went to the same medical school, the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. All right, so now I'll call Maria. Go ahead, Doctor.
Hi everyone. My name is Maria. I am a PGY 1 at Christiana Care in Delaware. In a combined program in emergency medicine and internal medicine. I did my training at Unicom for medical school up in Maine. And fun fact about things I did in between matching and starting residency was I started reading for fun again. I hadn't done this since probably college, and it was really fun because now I don't have any time to read for fun.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And next we'll go with Dr. Daniel.
Hello, my name is Allison Daniel. I am the secretary for the RFC. Fun fact, I actually went to West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine with Dimitri and Linda as well. I'm the only one from West Virginia though. Born and raised in West Virginia. I am actually a family medicine resident in North Dakota now though. I'm a PGY 2. And so some fun thing that I did between matching and actually matriculating, I went to the beach several times. So that was great because now I definitely don't have time to go to the beach.
All right. Well, before we go ahead and introduce Dr. Hales, so Linda, did you do anything fun after matching and before residency?
Oh, what did I do? So it was like COVID era. So it wasn't as fun as it could have been. We did buy a house though, so that was kind of exciting. That was our little, exciting moment, but it wasn't the funnest. It was definitely challenging and kind of intimidating, but, I slept in a lot, I guess.
Well, that's always a good thing though, get some good sleep before starting residency. All right, Dr. Hales, he's joining us today, such a great guy.
Alyssa, did you introduce yourself yet? Okay, Dr. Pham, go ahead and jump in before me.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Elisa Pham. I'm a PGY 1 family medicine resident with the Wright Center my location is in Ohio right now. And fun fact about me, I started listening to a lot of audiobooks during my drives to work and to home. And I recently had my vacation. So I enjoyed being with family and traveling down the coast of California. That was fun. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Ali.
I'm Ken Hiles. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate Medical Education at Kansas City University, where I also oversee residency placement. And I'm currently the chair of the Council on Residency Placement for AACLM.
Nice. All right. Well, Dr. Waters, you're next.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tito. My name is Dr. Holly Waters. I am also a member of the Council on Residency Placement for AOGME, and I graduated from Unicom as well in 2016 and did a 3-year residency in osteopathic manipulative medicine. And now I'm clinical faculty at Nova Southeastern University at the campus in Clearwater, Florida. And while not formally a part of the Graduate Medical Education Office, I am affiliated with them as well by helping to develop new residencies. And so I'm excited to be helping to train up the next generation of physicians. And if you see my dogs in the background, sorry.
All right, thank you, Dr. Waters. All right, and then Katie Harden.
Hi, my name is Katie Harden, and I am the Residency Placement Coordinator with Kansas City University. A little bit background on me is I have actually been in healthcare over 20 years. Prior to coming to KCU, I was an on-site coordinator and the manager of medical education at Mercy Hospital, Joplin. So in my role, I work with 3rd and 4th year students, advising them through the 4th year process and the match and SOAP and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And my name is Dimitri Tito, and I was born in Cameroon. I grew up in Baltimore. I went to medical school at the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine, just like Allison and Linda. And I'm doing my residency in internal medicine. I'm a 2nd year, and I'm up here in Michigan at the Western Michigan University School of Medicine. All right, well, now we'll move and ask each of our speakers if they could provide us with 1 or 2 pieces of advice on post-interviewing and preparing the rank order list. So 1 advice or 2 pieces of advice about preparing a rank order list and post-interviewing tips. All right, well, I'll start with Dr. Daniel.
All right, so I've got one that's like near and dear to my heart. So I definitely am the kind of person, I think, that you have gut feelings about things. If you're having a big gut feeling about a program, good or bad, listen to that. You're going to feel at home in some places. You're going to notice some things, that maybe you don't like about programs or you really do like about programs. And I would say listen to those feelings whenever you're making your rank list for sure.
Nice. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Daniel. And if you have any comments, like, any of your speakers, if you want to add any comments, you go for it. All right. Well, Dr. Hales, could you share with us your piece of advice?
The biggest advice I can give the students is to listen to those that are trying to advise you. One of the things that we see in as harsh as it may sound sometimes, we try to be honest and upfront with some of the students that especially they may really want to do, but they may not be competitive, although we don't fully discourage it, but we definitely encourage a parallel plan. And we're not doing that to try to be mean or discouraging. Our job is to make every student out there successful. And, sometimes it's a little bit, some of the information is a little bit hard to take, but we're doing it for your benefit.
Nice, thank you, Dr. Helms. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, Linda Logan, could you share with us your advice?
Sure. So I would say after interviewing, be careful emailing program directors that certain programs are your number one, because you might change your mind later, and whatever field you're going into, even if it is internal medicine and has a lot of people in it, it's still a small community. And if you change your mind and you burn that bridge by accident because you got really excited after your interview and you really felt great about it, but maybe 2 days later you interview somewhere else and all of a sudden you feel great about it. Well, now you've told someone you're going to make them your number one. You might not, and then you might burn that bridge. So I think it's best just to email the director saying that you had a great experience and that you thanked them for allowing you to interview there, and that you're highly considering them, because you're not giving them, all the power and giving them a false hope. So I think it's important to just, I don't think it's wrong to email people and say you had a good time, but I would be careful with telling them that, they're your number one. That's just my feelings.
Nice. I agree. I think some programs actually tell applicants not to email them, right? and then I know in our program it doesn't necessarily affect the rank order of the applicant, like how they're going to rank the applicant, whether or not they email them after the interview. So that's for our program here, and I'm sure other programs are the same. All right, all right, Alisa, hey, what do you have for us?
After your interviews and you think about which programs you want to do, whether you're dual applying or not, you should think about your personal preferences and list your absolutes down. Like, what are your absolute conditions you want in a program, whether it's rural or whether it's like city or suburban. You want a big program or a small program. Write down your absolute requirements you want from a program. And then you can make a list of your conditionals, like whether you want it to be at a certain location, this state or that state, to have a short list of absolutes and maybe another list of your conditionals that you would prefer to have in a program, so you know what you're looking for when ranking a program.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pham. I agree with you. I think just asking people and putting like a checkbox and priorities, like, is that close to my family? Checkbox. Is that a big program? Is that a university base? And then checkbox. So I agree with you. All right, Dr. Jones.
So kind of going off of what Alyssa said, this is different than, picking a college or picking a med school, because it's not just in theory for just 3 to 5, 7 years. This is kind of going to be, where you start your career as a physician, and you have a lot of connections that you can build in your residency that possibly can lead to, future job opportunities. And so I think something that I really thought about was kind of what, not only like environment I wanted the hospital to be in, but like what was most meaningful for me to have in a community where I start like my training after med school, and whether that be, location for me, or like the camaraderie of the people. I think it's really important to kind of take all that into account and not forget that you're ranking programs based on kind of what you want, and the match really does favor applicants over the programs. Everyone makes their list, but they'll take yours into account first. So don't, poo-poo how much weight you have. So really put into account and think about where you want to be and like what kind of environment you want to be in.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. That was awesome. And Katie Harden.
I want to tag on to what Dr. Jones just said. Some of the best advice I can give to students when it comes to creating your rank order list is rank programs in order of what programs make you the happiest and you'd be the most content and are the best fit for you personally and your family and where you're trying to be for yourself. Don't rank programs based upon how you think the programs are going to rank you. It will not work in your favor that way. It is always better to rank programs based upon your personal best fit for you, not what you think they're going to rank you at all.
I echo Dr. Harden. I think that also another key point is even though it might be like an Ivy League school or a great name, if your experience was negative, but you want to kind of ignore it because you want the title or the name out of it, you still have to work there for many years. And if it's a really bad environment, that name doesn't really mean much because you want the best training. So it's important to make sure you're not just kind of getting persuaded by the title or the institution potentially. Definitely make sure you're happy.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine at least 3 years plus in a place you don't like? Well, wow. Okay. All right, Dr. Waters, still here. What do you have for us?
Well, I think everyone said kind of the most important advice. So if you guys haven't heard it yet, again, rank your programs in order of where you want to go. Just a little, personal anecdote to hit that home. I ended up ranking a program that I thought was just a better program overall, but not necessarily better for me as my first choice. And I can't tell you the regret that I had as soon as I certified that list. So I knew it was a bad decision, but then I got my second choice on the list. So it all worked out in the end and it was a perfect fit for me. So, and then just anything else to add would be, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you write down your notes from all your interviews, your impressions, especially like your feelings and things that may not necessarily come up in a data sheet for each program. Because if you think that it's kind of getting a little bit fuzzy now, just imagine a few weeks from now when you're trying to put all these programs next to each other. And if all your interviews have been virtual, there's just been a lot less opportunity for you guys to really get a feel for each program. So whatever you can do now in terms of getting all your impressions down on paper, make sure you do that so that to save yourself a headache and then trying to be like, what happened? What did I think last time when you were at the interview?
I can build off of that too. I've made a comment. There's the Match Prism app. I definitely use that whenever I was ranking my list. And you have like, it gives you like a way to rank your list based on, there's a ton of different things that you rank, and you can put your own comments in it too. And so I kind of used that, and I knew where I was going to rank number one. And then whenever I had went back and like looked at everything and counted up the stars, my number one place was actually my number one place.
Nice. Thank you, Dr. Waters, Dr. Daniel. I did not even know about that, website application that you just mentioned, Allison. So thank you for sharing it. Well, so now I would like to transition to Maria. I'm going to invite her to go through some of the questions that were submitted earlier on by the applicants. And thank you for those that are submitting questions now in the chat box. We're going to try our best to answer all of them. But for now, we'll go over the questions that were submitted earlier by the applicants. And we're so fortunate to have, Katie Harden here, Dr. Waters, Dr. Hells. They're actively working in the GME, so they will be helping us answering some of your questions. All right. Well, Maria, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Dimitri. So you guys submitted a bunch of really great questions, and we'll see how many we can get through. I'll just kind of open up to the floor, and whoever has insight into each question, feel free to just speak up. So first question we're going to start off with is kind of a big question. What is the best and most effective way that you would advise making a rank list? What factors would you advise prioritizing?
For me, it was where I was most comfortable. That was the biggest factor for me. I mean, there were other things that I took into account, like I really wanted a good OB experience, but where I was most comfortable and felt at home was the biggest factor for me. And then once again, I used the Prism app.
I would say make sure you know what your priorities are. I knew students who wanted like a degree of scheduling flexibility in case they wanted to start a family during residency, or other students who wanted to, like, no matter what, they wanted to be in like an urban program because they're city people. So it's about knowing who you are as a person, not just as a future physician, and knowing what kind of programs can give you that. So make sure you're taking into consideration things, maybe not even academic, maybe not even residency related, that are important to you. Like if you hate driving, don't go to a rural program because you're going to be driving a lot, especially if you have out rotations.
I echo what Dr. Waters said entirely. I think it's important to remember, like, if you have a significant other or a child or something that has health problems and you need good insurance, like health insurance, that's important to look into. If you, don't want to take call your first year, you want to take it as a second year on and they have a different program or something for you, think about that. It just depends on what, fits your life at the time. And so I would definitely look at the benefits though. Don't ignore benefits. You'll use them. So if they're not great and, say you're insulin dependent, that's hard and it's going to be expensive. So it's important to make sure you're, thinking about other things outside of work that you might need, anything in the benefits era too.
I think several comments have been made already on how to look at this. First and foremost, you have to rank a place that you're going to feel comfortable with, and that from all aspects. And as cliche as it may sound, and it was mentioned before, follow your gut. Your gut feeling is going to be right 99% of the time, and don't rank a program because of its name. Don't rank a program because someone from the class above you said that, oh, that's a great program, or don't not rank a program because that program is terrible. If you've had experience there and it's something that you think is going to be a good fit for you, then I would rank it. The difficulty a lot of you have now with the virtual interviews, and it's hard to get a feel for a program on a virtual interview. But just remember, it's also hard for them to get a feel for you. So it's difficult to make your entire choice off of a virtual interview, but unfortunately, sometimes that's where we are right now. So again, as you're in the interview, the biggest recommendation I have is as much as you're listening to what they say, read their faces, read their body language, because that's really going to tell you what they think about you, not what they're saying.
Also, I'm going to jump in after Dr. Hill's here. And speaking on the virtual interview type trail, I was on that last year. I was all virtual with you guys, so I feel it's not the most fun. But what I did that I thought was pretty helpful was reaching out to some of the residents. A lot of residents provided their email on interview day, or they had a student interview contact on their website. And I reached out to them, and just having a little bit of kind of more candid conversation through email or cell phone was really helpful for me to get a feel of the kind of person that was in that residency, because residencies tend to, have groups of people that kind of you spend hours and hours and hours a week together. So you kind of do become like a family, and they all kind of have, a close-knit kind of vibe, for lack of a better word. And so kind of feeling what vibe a program got kind of by talking to the residents outside of the interview trail, I thought was really helpful for me. All right. So on that note, we'll jump into the next question. So any recommendations on those applying to 2 specialties? I don't know if anyone on the call did. I can kind of start with this because as a combined resident, I also applied to categorical programs since there's not a ton of EMIM programs in the country. And so how I kind of worked my rank list with that was I really looked at each program as a whole. And I decided, EMIM as a specialty is what I wanted primarily, but then I looked at those individual programs and tried to figure out if the 5 years in that one program to me was more important than a 3 or 4 year program at a different location or with a different, community or different exposure to pathology or trauma. And so it kind of goes back to what Alyssa was saying, kind of making those lists of conditionals and non-conditionals in the different types of programs. And so it was, for me, it was kind of looking at the specialty and then looking at the type of program. But that's because I kind of had a preference of one specialty versus the other. So I don't know if anyone else has advice. I don't know, Dr. Waters or Dr. Hills, if you had advice on applying to 2 specialties, or if anyone else on the call had this conundrum.
I think it's becoming more common in these years, as it seems every year that the match is getting more and more competitive. And so I know among the members of the Council on Residency Placement, there's a lot of discussion about, especially for students going into the more competitive specialties, to make sure that they have a backup plan, kind of like a second option for a specialty that maybe is not their top choice, but something that they would at least be content in, or possibly as kind of like an alternative pathway to the specialty of their choice. So like, for example, if you don't get ortho, but you might be interested in going into sports medicine after a family medicine residency, that's a good option. Now, the important thing to take into consideration, or to always keep forefront when you are applying to multiple specialties, is if one of the specialties is your backup, don't treat it like a safety. Make sure that you do the research for those programs, you do the research for what's involved in that kind of specialty, and you come to each, well, you've already completed the interviews, so hopefully you came to each interview prepared for what that entails, but that you continue to treat each of those opportunities as what they are. They are opportunities to be a doctor and to be the best doctor that you can. So I wouldn't take them for granted. And again, put them in your rank list where your heart tells you to.
I applied to 2, shocker, I applied to 2 different types of fields, and it was because I didn't know if I fully wanted to go pathology and give up seeing patients entirely. So I kind of got nervous and I interviewed them both, but I ended up not ranking any of the other field and decided to rank all of pathology. So I think it's kind of up to you. If you don't really see yourself in that field, I just wouldn't even risk it, because I am so happy I made that decision. It's definitely my field. I would have been miserable in a different one. So even if you did interview, you don't have to rank them if you have second feelings about it. You can always stick with your gut.
And again, I would echo what Linda said, and I would also take it one step further, especially if you're in a highly competitive field. No matter how competitive you are, there's only a finite number out there, and if you do research on some, there are certain specialists that are just not DO friendly. And if that's what you want to do, be prepared for either for a second program. Or the other thing that we're telling everybody, regardless of their competitiveness, is, be prepared to potentially have to soak, because of the competitiveness of the match process and the finite number of programs, which is less than the finite number of students that are out there. Be prepared, and once your rank list is submitted and you're in that waiting game, prepare yourself with letters of recommendation, additional letters of recommendation or personal statements. Prepare yourself to have to soak. Hopefully you won't have to, but if you do, you're one step ahead of the game, and you don't have to get over the shock of not getting a program in on Monday and then have to get all this together to start the application, to start getting the applications in. So, be a little proactive on the thought process. Again, it's not meant to be negative. It's not meant to be a downer, so to speak. It's the reality of the world today. You're in a much better frame of mind to do it before you get the news than after you get the news. If you do happen to not match on Monday, you're in a much better frame of mind before that than after to try to get all that in place.
So I'll piggyback a little bit on that. I've had students ask, how do I know if I need to prepare for SOAP? How do I know now whether or not I need to start thinking about what SOAP is going to look like? Use the NRMP charting outcomes data that NRMP posts on their website. It's a PDF document. There's one for MDs, there's one for DOs. You can pull up your specialty and it'll tell you how many contiguous ranks you have to be successful matching into your specialty. As a rule of thumb at our medical school, we tend to tell our students, if you have less than 80% chance of matching in your specialty, meaning you don't have enough interviews to have that 80% chance of matching, you need to start thinking now about what you want SOAP to look like should you have to SOAP. We don't want you to SOAP, but decide for yourself what specialty you want to go into. If you have to SOAP, what would you want to apply? And like Dr. Heil said, look at your letters of recommendation that you already have in ARIS. Do you need to potentially ask for another letter to have for that specialty? It's not a bad idea now to go ahead and touch on your personal statement and see if you need to revise the wording in that personal statement if you are choosing to SOAP into a different specialty. Doing those things and being proactive, honestly, is going to alleviate a lot of your stress the week of SOAP.
Thank you all. Kind of piggybacking off it, since we're on this topic, one of the questions submitted ahead of time was just, can you guys just talk about what to expect in the SOAP process, kind of how that works, and break that down a little bit?
I think I can probably touch on that probably more.
I was going to say, we could have last year a whole lot easier than this year.
So what is Match Week going to look like this year? They have changed the timeline compared to what they've done in years past. So just to kind of run down real quick what SOAP week will look like. So you'll find out Monday morning whether or not you matched. If you did not match, shortly after, there will be a list of all of the programs with open positions released. And you will have all of Monday to apply to those programs. Programs will not be able to look at your SOAP applications until Tuesday morning. And then you cannot contact programs unless they contact you. You will then potentially be doing phone interviews, virtual interviews with programs Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the SOAP. There are 4 rounds of SOAP this year, and they're all occurring on Thursday. They are 2 hours long. There's an hour break in between each. So essentially this year it's looking a lot different. So it's going to be a lot harder to do interviews in between rounds. So we anticipate you're probably going to have to do all of your applications probably most likely before that first round. And you will have also rounds complete by the end of the day, Thursday evening. So you'll find out if you matched into the programs. So the programs will rank students and they will be the ones to put out offers that are sent to you through ARIS.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Backing up a little bit, the charting outcomes data link for the 2020, they usually do it every other year. The 2020 data, I put that link in the chat so anyone can kind of take a look and find the specialty that they're applying. So I know there's been a couple questions in the chat about thank you notes and letters of intent. So kind of touching on that, do you feel that it's appropriate to email a program director and tell them you're ranking their program #1? And how important are letters of intent to top programs? So I guess starting with do you email program directors to #1? Let's maybe Dimitri or some of the residents, and then we'll pass it up to Katie, Dr. Waters, and Dr. Hill.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'll be careful with that specific statement. I know I did that because I was advised to do it by my brother. Who was also he was a year ahead of me. So I did that. I did email my top 2 programs, and I told them I was interested. They did not reply to me. But I ended up matching in my top 1. So again, I'll be careful with that. And in my case, I did. I don't know about the other residents, or if some of you want to add anything.
I don't think it hurts to do it, but I don't think it necessarily helps either. I think in some specialties it could hurt though. Like my program, for instance, I don't think it would do anything at all. They're probably going to be like, oh, that's great. Thanks. Nice. Bye. But it's probably not going to be like a make or break decision of whether we're going to rank someone higher, but it's also not going to affect them negatively. Personally, I like getting
well, one area where I have heard that it can hurt if you email someone that they're your number one is if then you don't end up ranking them your number one, because say then they put you their number one. So in theory, you're each other's number one, so you should end up there, and then you don't. Then that's like really not great for professionalism moving forward. So just be wary that if you are going to email someone that they're going to be your number one, make sure you actually then do put them. So kind of like what Linda was saying earlier, like don't preemptively email someone unless you're completely positive that that's where you want to be.
And just remember, program directors in the same specialty have meetings together and talk to each other. So you will not get away from that if that happens.
And I also think it's really important not to forget the program coordinators. They talk a lot with the director, they talk back and forth. And if you aren't being respectful to all parties, you might not be in the same position as you thought. And also to thank them because they're the ones who organize all of the interviews, the lunches, whatever. So I think it's also nice to include them. I think that shows a little bit more love than just saying, you know, the top of the line. Like we have to remember there's a lot of people who are involved in this process of everyone interviewing. And I think it's important to think about them as well. They will really, really appreciate it.
At whatever level you're dealing with, it's the coordinators that basically run the show. You don't believe me? Ask Katie.
I was always told not to tell programs they're number one, but I do agree with everybody else. If you truly believe that program is your number one and they are your only number one, it wouldn't hurt to tell them. But if you want to express interest in other programs, you can always email a generic positive email saying, I really like your program. I enjoyed interviewing the residents and I can see myself living in that state, or something along those lines, something positive. But you don't have to say that they're your number one.
Awesome. Great advice, everyone. So a question kind of about getting more information on the program, which we touched on a little bit earlier, but how can you tell if our residents have a positive atmosphere in their program? They said they always say this during interviews. Does anyone have any insight into kind of getting more of a feel for the program?
Well, as someone said before, reach out to the residents outside of the interview process, outside of the interview time. Talk to the residents on a separate time, and even if you can arrange to talk to them on a weekend when they're not on call, so that they're not even at work. And if you can develop that rapport, they're going to be much more honest with you. When it's in the interview process, they're pretty much obligated to follow the party line. And benefit the program. But my recommendation would be if you have questions, or if you really want, if you're really considering a program and you want to know if there's any dirty laundry with that program, kind of reach out to some of the residents outside of work hours where they're not at the institution, and they'll be more likely to be honest with you in that environment.
Perfect. Sounds good. One more question here about couples matching, kind of a unique niche. I don't know if any of our current residents ended up couples matching, so I don't know if we have any insight into this, but any tips for students who are couples matching? This might be better for Dr. Waters, Katie, and Dr. Held.
I kind of helped interview some applicants for my program this past season, and I really liked how, all the co-interviewers in my program all appreciated that the applicants verbalized saying that they are couples matching and where they would ideally like to be, especially if they're local to the area. So just being open, transparent that you are couples matching primarily. And if you're applying to a program that do not offer a spot for your partner, then you can still express strong interest in their program no matter what, but still being transparent that you have a partner that you'd like to be with. It's good to be open about.
You know, as a former program director, I can tell you that we discourage looking at couples matches because, you know, the philosophy there is, and we weren't a large program, we were a 4-4-4 program, and you know, our concern was if you couples match, there's going to be instances where if you end up losing one due to illness or something, then you have a better than average chance of losing two at the same time. You know, my recommendation for, you know, for couples that want to get into the same area is to, you know, try to go to a suburban or metropolitan area where there are multiple hospitals with programs that you can not be in the same program, but at the same token be, you know, maybe 10 miles, the hospitals be 10 miles apart and live somewhere in between so that neither one of you has a extraordinary drive. You can still be in the same town, you can be doing the same thing, but not at the same program and run into the potential pitfalls that I explained that some programs, you know, if you're an internal medicine program that's a large program that has like 20 first-year residents, it's not as difficult as if you are a residency that has 4 or 5. So you have to take that into consideration. But sometimes I think it's better to try to go into the same town, but not necessarily the same program.
Yeah,
great advice.
Piggybacking on Dr. Hiles, when it comes to couples matching, I think it's really important to be open-minded to the region and not focusing on only looking at programs that are in the same institution. You know, you can look at programs that are 30 miles apart, or, you know, looking at a driving distance between them. I actually had a couples match a few years ago down in Texas that they ended up matching into programs that were about 70 miles apart, and they just purchased a home in between, halfway. And they both commute and they're both happy, couples matched and everything. So keep your mind open and be willing to look at programs outside of that health system, and you'll actually find a lot more opportunity for both of you, especially on your rank list. The other thing is look at the NRMP website. There's actually a couple of videos that go through what the couples match process looks like. And it even goes through the couples algorithm to help you understand your rank order lists and stuff a lot better. Definitely watch that one. I think it's extremely helpful for those that are trying to couples match, especially those of you that are trying to figure out your rank list right now.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. I'm speaking of the NRMP videos. I don't have the couples match video flagged, but I'll put the link in the chat for the video on just how the match works in general. It was very user friendly. I like showed it to my parents during match just so they kind of understood kind of what I was going through. But I'll put that link in here right now so everyone can kind of see it. And then you can get to the couples match link from this YouTube link. And while I do that, I will turn the floor back over to Dimitri to see if there's any chat questions that have been typed in that we can answer.
All right. Seems like we've answered a lot of them. So nice. So Linda, do you have any questions on your end?
I did find a question helpful that I guess I don't really know the answer to, which I think would be helpful to maybe ask other people. There was a question that was asked saying, like, is it risky to rank a new program versus an established program? Or does it matter if they don't have like that tenure compared to, you know, those established programs, and how to kind of approach that?
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure, but I know when I was doing my rank list, I was looking at programs that have good fellowship opportunities. So that would be tough with the newer programs, at least on my end. I was also looking at, you know, like diversity of the patients and the volume. I wouldn't necessarily know that with a new program. That was the second thing. And then of course, the third thing, you know, has to do with, you know, just kind of how the residents interact. And that's kind of tough to tell, you know, with the newer program. I don't know if anyone else want to add something to it.
I think the disadvantage of a new program is you don't have, there is no track record there. You don't have board pass rates to look at, et cetera. But the advantage to the new program is you're going to be you're going to be the trendsetter. You're going to be the one cutting the ice moving through. And the faculty at a new program as a whole tend to be much more engaged because they're wanting to make it succeed too. So they're going to be much more helpful. They're going to be right there with you, and not just like, yeah, okay, go ahead, just let me know. So I think from that standpoint, I think from the education and hands-on, it potentially could be quite a bit better. But you do have, there is the risk of not having a history of board scores and success rate going into practice, especially if it's a surgical residency. You don't have that. Having been involved with a new school start and having been involved starting a new program, I tend to lean towards there's a level of excitement in a new program that you don't have with an existing one, that most of the time can work to your advantage.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't know the answer to that because all of my programs are relatively established. So that was a great answer. Another question here says, how likely are applicants going to match in their top 5 ranks? And if they don't, why do you think, you maybe didn't get your top 5?
I feel like if you are applying broadly in different states, not where you're from, I think one of the reasons why you may not rank or match within the top 5 are among programs that are preferring applicants who are local to that area. But if you match anywhere on your rank list, make sure your rank list includes programs that you would be happy living in, wherever that is, really.
2 things I would say about that is, number one is, before you rank a program, look at the resident list. See if there are any osteopathic physicians as residents. If there's not, then your chance of matching it is going to go down there, number one. And the other thing is going to be specialty. Some of your specialties are in general not DO friendly. And I said too, but the third thing, and might be the most important, is going back to not necessarily listening to advice, especially if you're not really competitive for that program, but insist on ranking it anyway. If you're not competitive, your chances of getting it are very low. So, like I said before, when we don't try to say don't do it, but we try to maneuver you in a different direction based on your, based on your chance of success and your competitiveness. So those that insist on ranking someone that they're not competitive for, that's going to be a big reason. And I'll use one example, going back 10 years ago when I first started in full-time medical school academics. We were dealing with one who was insistent on being an orthopedic surgeon. She was in the bottom quartile. She had like a 410 on her complex 1 and 2. But because her dad was an orthopedic surgeon, she said, that's all. She says, I'm going to get it. I'm like, okay. So the next year she's back and she said the same thing. I said, well, I said, you're still not competitive, and you sat out a year. You didn't even try research or anything to try to build yourself up a little bit. So, it comes down to, I guess, for the lack of better term, sometimes it just comes down to the reality. And, again, listen to your advisors, because they're not there to discourage you. They're there to make you as successful as possible.
That was a really great answer. Thank you for that. I also agree with everything he said, including, just trust your gut. If it doesn't seem like a good fit, put it lower on the list, even if it does have a big name. You got to be realistic. Unfortunately, it hurts, but it happens. Great question here is, they want us to speak a little bit about the rank process. Like, what does it entail, kind of the timeline when it all opens, how you kind of go about it, just the whole process in general.
Yeah, I don't quite remember the dates, but I know my medical school shared the different dates and the different, like all the agenda with us. I don't know if Katie Harden or Dr. Helms.
So, yeah, the ranking opens this year, February 1st at noon Eastern time. And then you have to have your rank order list certified by 9 a.m. on Eastern time on March 2nd. That's the timeline for ranking them.
Nice. And do check with your medical school. I'm sure that they have something they put in place.
Well, and you know, to be honest with you, what we did before we came on here is we pulled, you know, we pulled the rank list up that's published by NRMP. So I mean, it's right there, the whole timeline. So that's where I would go for the timeline. That, you know, as much as I hate to say it, as being an employee of the medical school, sometimes you can't always go by what the medical school said, because sometimes they're going from last year's data and not looking at the fact that there's almost always a day or two change from one year to the next just because of the calendar.
Okay, awesome. And then another question here is, do you think it's wise to do a second look if it's going to be your number one? I can speak on behalf of this a little bit because I did that. I think it's important if you have a family or significant other to show them the area if you have that opportunity. That's what I did. So I really like this program in Vermont, but I wanted my spouse to see it because I wanted just to make sure it was an area he could live in. He has to work here. He has to live here too. So it was important for me to bring him somewhere he was happy, similar with medical school. So he's kind of been through the whole journey. If you do have the opportunity to do a second look, I think it's great to maybe try to convince the residents to meet with you again, or, you know, kind of clarify some more questions you might have, or just kind of show your face again, because I think it shows that you're really interested. And it is a bit of extra effort. Not everyone does them because it's difficult and it's expensive, but I think it doesn't hurt to try to meet up with a resident again. So what I did was I just reached out to the coordinator, you know, and said, can I have some emails? I'd like to come back for a second look. And I was able to have dinner with one of the residents, and I learned a lot more about the program the second time as well, because a lot of interviews start to kind of blend. It's hard to remember, you know, what things were just Vermont specific versus other states or whatever. So I tried to just clarify everything again to make sure I was making the right decision. But I thought it was very helpful to do a second look.
Yeah, I agree.
Because oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Maria.
I was just going to give kind of the virtual perspective of it, because I feel like for me last year it was really difficult because all interviews were virtual, and then there was kind of a gray area of if we even were allowed in hospital campuses. And so I ended up kind of doing almost a pre-look before even interview season in August, when there was a lull in COVID cases last year. I'd emailed a couple programs just asking if I was in the area, if I could just meet with some of the residents. So it wasn't a second look. But I think because cases are high in some areas, but hoping to go down, some programs are offering to meet with residents if you're in the area. So I think it's like a gray area right now per program. And so I think it was helpful for me to see the areas and to talk to some of the residents. But then when between finishing interview season and submitting my rank list, I kind of did my own mini second look, where my mom and I just kind of drove to my top couple, and we just kind of looked at the areas, and we met with no one because COVID cases were really high. We didn't go in any hospitals, but I got to kind of see a lot of the areas. And from my interview days, I could kind of see where the residents had said they lived and kind of get a feel for the environment. And honestly, I thought that was really helpful for me. Unfortunately, in this weird virtual world, that was kind of the best I could get for myself. And maybe programs where you're applying are doing some kind of virtual second look or something. But for me, I thought it was helpful to at least physically see there, kind of like what Linda was saying, to kind of see the area. So even if your programs aren't offering second looks, reaching out to some of the residents and asking if they have insight or like things that they would recommend you kind of see in the area or do in the area, I think that can help with, like, I guess, a pseudo second.
Yeah, I agree with Maria, Linda, what they say. I think a lot of programs can individualize their second look. At the end of the interviews, I remember asking a couple programs if they have a second look available. They both told me yes. So I was able to come back for, I think, a couple of days for one program and then a week for the other program. And it gave me another chance to reassess the program. I actually did not match where I did my second looks, but it gives you another way to look at the programs. At least you talk to the residents, ask more information, and you could be like, yes, I do want to match here, or you could be like, no, I actually don't want to match here. So
in short, if you are offered, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, Dr. Tito, one thing, there was one question in the Q&A that I just saw that I want to bring up, because it's going to, everybody potentially is going to be thinking about, and that is, if you have to soak, do you accept your first offer? That's a real difficult answer. Again, I say go with your gut. My gut would be yes. And the reason I say that is the past 2 years during SOAP, we had one individual 1 year and 2 individuals the year before that didn't accept their first offer because that's not what they wanted to do. So my first question to them was, then why did you apply there? But then secondly, they were waiting for something different. Well, when SOAP ended, they were still without a program because they declined, and they had declined offers that they had. So, it's kind of hard to give a definitive answer. But I can tell you that over the previous 2 years, there were 3 that declined their first offer and never got another one. So based on that, I would say a non-perfect offer is better than no offer at all.
All right, Dr. Pham, did you want to add something?
Now, because most interviews and second looks will be virtual, it can be easier to attend to more than one second look to programs who offer virtual second looks, which could basically be more time to get to know residents, ask more questions, more time to get to know the program director. So I would highly recommend attending any of the top 5 or top 6, top 10, whichever place you would love to go to if they offer a second look.
Yeah, thank you. So, Linda, did you have any last question to ask the speakers?
There was one last question, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I think it's a good one to end on because it happened in my life. So it was kind of alluding to, should I rank, or is it smart to rank a program I never auditioned at higher than one I auditioned at? So I can just answer that really briefly. I did 4 auditions, and I actually ended up matching somewhere I never auditioned and I just interviewed. So I personally feel like, they're great for experience, but I don't think they're 100% necessary to match. In my life, it worked out that way. I don't know if anyone else has any feelings about auditions versus likelihood of matching.
I completely echo that as well. Because of COVID, my sub-I actually at Christiana, where I am now, got canceled. And so I had to send an email to the program director from my clinical advisor saying, like, we're not allowed. And so I think that's where, like, driving through the areas and talking to residents can really help you get a feel. And if you feel like the feel of a program is similar to what you want, even if you didn't necessarily go there in person or have time to rotate there, I think trust your gut.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your comments. Before we close this, I just want to ask each speaker a final word of advice to our applicants, future doctors listening to us. So if you don't mind, I will start with Linda Logan. If you have any final word of advice for our applicants.
I would probably just say to trust the process and that it really is in the applicant's favor if you play the game right. Like we alluded to in the beginning, don't rank things that you're not competitive for or that you don't feel good about. Rank what you feel like you fit in with perfectly, or not perfectly, but the community may, felt a bit better in certain areas or in different fields. I definitely would just trust your intuition and play the game. It's a game. I mean, it's challenging because it's an algorithm, and it's frustrating that it's just like put all this info in and let's click go. But definitely don't ignore the red flags. Put them lower, put the good things higher. And I did exactly what Dr. Waters did, and I got my number 2, and I'm so grateful. So definitely put your number 1 that you really like.
Thank you. And Dr. Pham?
I would say, don't rank a program you don't think you'll be happy at. Make sure you only rank places you would be happy at, whether it's your top specialty or if you're dual applying or anything. Make sure you're happy at that program, and you won't regret it.
All right. And Dr. Jones?
This is probably the advice I give for like all things to all people, no matter what. But I think it holds true here. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Like what you're going to want in a program is totally different than what someone else wants in a program, and someone else might have already submitted their rank list. And you might still be waffling between what specialties you want or what you want to be your 1 or 2, or someone might have sent 5 letters to their top 5 and you don't want to send any. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Really listen to your heart, go with your gut, and everything will work out. And then after math, you can just have fun and coast till graduation.
All right. Before I let Katie speak, I'm gonna say just make sure you enjoy your vacation. All right. And no one mentioned that. I'm like, what the heck? But go somewhere warm and just enjoy before residency, and then you'll be good. Katie.
I'm gonna just honestly kind of tag on to what everybody else is already saying. Follow your heart, follow your gut. You guys have worked your tails off to get this far. You've done the research. You've spent so much time investigating these programs. Follow your heart as to what's the best fit for you, and you can't go wrong. There's so many resources around you to help you, but like they said, each person is unique. What you need is unique to you. What priorities you have to make you happy and feel fulfilled is going to be completely different than the next person in the same specialty applying with you to the same programs. So follow what's best for you and you won't go wrong.
Thank you, Katie Hardin. All right, Dr. Waters.
I guess at this point, there are a lot of questions about letters of intent. So I think my piece of advice right now is to be like, don't freak out about letters of intent. You've done 99% of the work to get into the residency. You've done medical school, you've taken boards, you've written the personal statement, you've got the letters of recommendation, you submitted your applications, you've done the interviews, you put your best foot forward. While letters of intent may help you, they may not. The programs may already have created their rank order list because they had the only meeting date when everyone could get together and sit down and decide who their candidates were. So use it if it's a tool that you can use to your advantage, and if not, just go forward with a clear heart, a deep breath, and await the results.
Awesome, thank you. And then Dr. Hales.
I think just to follow with what Dr. Waters said for a second, if a letter of intent is going to make or break you go into that program, that may not be the best program for you. Okay, you have to. It's your program, it's your education, it's your life. You and your family that you're living with, you're the ones who have to make that decision. It's not your classmates, it's not an upperclassmate, it's not a second-year resident, it's nobody else but you. And you're the one that has to be happy, you're the one that has to be satisfied, you're the one that has to make that decision and be comfortable with it. So be yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, for your time, both speakers, applicants. This session is recorded and it will be available to you in a few days. So just again, wonderful questions. You can also follow us on social media if you have any questions, just let us know. And you all have a good evening. Good luck, everyone.
Bye.
Good luck.